Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com here with an interesting video with Steven today because we are going to go over the naming of FroPack 3 presets. So at this point, when you're watching this, FroPack 3 is already available, but people always say, how do you come up with the unique names from FroPack 1 and FroPack 2? And we figured this time, we'll sit here together. Steven's gonna explain what the presets do or what he was going for, and then we're gonna throw names out there and see what we like and see what sticks. And so that's why we're letting you into this world. Sound good, Steven?
Sounds good.
Oh, and before we do that, if you want to pick up FroPack 3, FroKnowsPhoto.com/FroPack3. You can check them out right there. But how many did you create for this one?
So we have 15 unique presets for this one, same as FroPack 2, but there are some variations, like some have no vignettes, some have vignettes, some have grain, some don't have grain, but for the most part, you're getting 15 solid presets.
Yeah, and the thing about our presets, if you have FroPack 1 and FroPack 2, even though we saw one of them has 14 unique ones and the other has 15 and this one now has 15, you'll notice there's variations in there. And some of them have like 22, what do we got, 22 different ones? We call it 15?
Something like that,
But
yeah.
it was like 22 or 23 in FroPack 3. But some, when there's just variants like no grain or with grain, we're not gonna say that those are unique and different.
No.
We have literally 15 unique ones here and there's variations, but we don't like say, hey, we don't try to cheat, basically.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump into the first one and just start throwing names out there.
Yeah, and just before we move on to the first one, I do want to say, I've spent weeks producing these presets, creating them. This is not something that happens overnight. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of testing that goes on. So I just want to throw that out there, that it's not just moving a couple sliders and calling it a preset. This takes a lot of work and effort, and I'm really happy with what we came up with for this set of presets. 2,500
different images I gave Steven.
2,500.
2,500 different raw files that go all the way back to early, super early digital, whether it was D2H. We've got Fujis, we got Nikons, we got Canons,
all
we got
different
Sonys.
brands.
There's probably an Olympus in there somewhere. But
there is.
There is?
I think so, yeah.
From the football.
The M1X.
It's all over the place. So we make sure, we do a lot of testing to make sure that they work.
And on JPEGs too, and on smartphones, crop sensor, full frame, DSLR, mirrorless, whatever you throw at us, we try and test it out.
All right, let's see, what's the first one?
So the first one is actually one of my favorite ones from this set of presets. It's called, right now the working title is Blown Out Film. You're getting a blown out film look. So I just want to go through some of these and show you a before and after of what you're looking at with the actual raw file, and now what you're looking at with the preset applied. And what I like about this is you kind of get that blown out highlight look, that film grain, but still very textured. So let's go through some of these real quick while you're deciding what you want to name it. So again, before and after for stuff like this, very stylized. This is one preset personally that I think will work on almost anything you throw at it. Doesn't have a huge color shift or changing colors. It's more about the tones and the textures in this specific preset.
And it's good to remember though that these are starting points. The fact that a lot of these can work with kind of one click is pretty cool, but just remember, we can't control your exposure. If you're off by multiple stops, which I'm off sometimes by a half a stop to 2 stops, depending on what it is, you've got to correct for that first and then hit the preset. Or just know that it's not going to correct for your mistakes like that because obviously we don't know what you did.
Yeah, and stuff like this, I really love how it almost removes all of the blemishes from the skin and just blows it out for the most part. I really love this preset, and I'm not really a film grain guy or adding grain to presets, but for some reason this one, I really gravitate to using it a lot.
And I'm not a fan of adding grain to anything.
Not at all.
But it's here in the preset. Doesn't mean I have to use it. Some people like it. And it's a simple tweak. We may include a secondary one that just takes the grain off, potentially.
And if you're shooting something like an old IBM Selectric typewriter, it's great to add that old school aesthetic onto it, then making it look like a digital era photo.
So what do you call this one?
Right now it's just blown out film. That's what I was going for, and I think we achieved that. I just don't know what to name it.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't know what to name this one either. This is what we go through. That's why it takes a while sometimes to do this one. Because blown out film to me is just it's not super cool.
Well, and before we get into naming it, Jared loves to name...
Dude, I got it.
What?
Lester Bangs.
From Almost Famous?
Almost Famous. Lester Bangs. Because Lester Bangs is like from the 70s, and he's a grainy type of guy, and he probably died of a drug overdose, I think. And Lester Bangs. See, Steven likes to name this stuff kind of like
What they actually
what
do.
they do, but I like to just say it's something else, like Lester Bangs.
Well, and I think for the most part, you know, back in the day with FroPack 1 and 2, we achieved that where we had something like Cinnamon Toast Crunch because it has caramel and cinnamon type tones. But Lester Bangs.
But see, that's the point, is everybody will associate that old school film look when they see what it does with Lester Bangs.
But you need to be used to using the FroPack over and over and over again to really get to know, like, okay, that's Lester Bangs.
Yeah, they'll be like Lester Bangs.
But I won't win this war, so.
Well, I don't know what
it's
we're going to call it
Lester
yet,
Bangs.
but old film, and you guys can
chime in on
I'm
the
sure
comments.
you can chime in, but we've already
at this point
we've already chosen
we've
it.
already figured
but
it out.
I'm just thinking like Lester Bangs is old school, so maybe they'll have to tune in to the end, and we'll just have to listen what the final ones are, so we don't take forever on the video. But do you want to edit this and just put Lester Bangs after yours? I think you would just right-click on it.
I'll just make a mental note because right now it's a little hard for me to reach the keyboard. But just know, you know, none of these are going to be permanent. We might change some, like Lester Bangs.
Lester Bangs, old film. All right, I just want to make note so we don't forget.
But this is usually how we do it, though. I start with like a somewhat working title, and then Jared will take over from there.
Or well, we work. It's collaborative. All right.
Sometimes.
So, I mean, that's an interesting. I like the feel of it.
I
the old
really
school
like
look.
it, man. I do. And then we have Bluegrass is our next one, working title, of course. This one is mainly affecting your blues and greens in the image. There's a lot of greens in the shadows, like emerald green, stuff like that. So you can see
Emerald Lagasse.
so you can see a before and after of this one, for example. This one's definitely more on the subtle side, preset-wise, but I tried not to go way over the top.
But look what it does with the contrast.
So one thing I really worked hard on for this was affecting the tone curves. So some of them I actually went down in contrast, but I spruced up the tone curve, so you're getting really contrasty images without just moving the contrast slider. So yeah, this one does some really cool things, like especially with a shot like this. Notice how it affects the blues in the image, makes it more of that teal look.
So we kind of could say like blue steel.
Blue steel's pretty good, I don't mind that. And then, you know, this is where you can really see how it affects greens. Again, bluegrass, Kentucky bluegrass, for you grass nerds. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
All right, look, are there some other?
Yeah, there's plenty more.
I mean, it's pretty cool what it does with the cowboy.
With the cowboy, you'll see how it's more of a magenta toned image at first, and then when you apply bluegrass to it, or blue steel, whatever you want to call it, you can see his jeans and the greens in the image definitely change. And that's mainly what this preset does. But I really like how it works on industrial type images. Like something like this, like the astronaut. I think it looks really cool when you throw on with the water and everything. It kind of gives you that like aqua feel.
And the last picture, is that my Waffle House picture?
This one?
That is my Waffle
That
House
is,
picture.
yeah. Like look at how much.
Is that what it looks like?
Well, this is what it initially looks like, and then with the preset applied, it really takes down the yellows and adds more blue in the shadows.
I mean, come on, you gotta call it hash brown, but you can't call it hash brown. Do we have something called hash brown?
We have something called Waffle House.
We do have Waffle House, but how about smothered and covered?
I'm really a fan of the blue steel, man.
You like
I think
blue
the blue
steel?
steel kind of works with this, even though I think this preset affects greens more, but
But you said blue.
blue-green, bluegrass.
Well, bluegrass to me is like music.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely means something different. I'm a lawn fanatic, so bluegrass to me means grass, but
Blue steel / bluegrass.
yeah, I like blue steel.
Oh, I've made notes.
Now the next one I think is my personal favorite out of this entire pack. Right now, a working title called Cityscapes just works wonderfully on.
Not very unique.
It works. So this is your original?
This was the first week I had the D3.
I was gonna say, this is an old photo.
14 to 24 hanging out the window of New York
And
City.
I just love what it does to the textures and the tones and the oranges in the image and the
Yeah.
reds. It really brings the city to life, especially like a shot like this, which was actually shot from the RX 100 Mark IV review on top of the Empire State Building. But look at that, it just really makes a snapshot into something great.
Thanks, Steven.
I'm kidding. And then we have something like this we shot with the A7 III, I believe. I shot this one.
Yeah, you shot that one.
Again, notice the look of the sky, the oranges and the yellows of the image. Now this can work for people as well. I made a variation called, right now, Cityscapes People, where I took down the reds and the oranges so it's not over the top. So you'll see a variation of that in there if you do pick up the FroPack. But I love what it does to industrial again.
Industrial wasteland.
Not terrible.
Could make a note.
Not Teenage Wasteland?
But that's a long. You'll have to bleep me, but I don't know. Teenage Wasteland. I don't know, Steven. Is that Baba O'Reilly?
It is.
See?
So I just
wait. Do you see how the names, like you throw something out, like Industrial Wasteland to Teenage Wasteland to Baba O'Reilly, and that's how we end up with Lester Bangs.
But like, look what it does to his fingers here. I mean,
That's
it just
incredible.
Really makes such a cool image, and something like this, you know,
Industrial chic.
look at how it just goes from a flat, boring image with the new colors and tones, and just really brings it to life. Any type of the old school. Where was this taken at?
That was a place in Easton, PA called Victor Bellata. That was Victor Bellata Manufacturing, and they did landing belts for the armed forces. So you can see there's a ton of photos here that Steven's tested them on. Did you show Todd?
I'll show Todd in 1 second. So, you know, it's also for landscapes too, not just cities.
Again, I'll reiterate, starting point. You can always tweak these and then resave them as your own presets after you find something that you like. That's the awesome things about these, is that it works on so many of them. That's great. This is in London. At,
Look at that.
That's awesome.
So cool.
That's like better than my edit in some ways.
Well, just look at the textures of the wood tones. It's turning it into more of a plain, boring piece of wood into something like
if you
with
remember
a rich mahogany finish.
Well, if you remember the movie Queen, the scene in Queen where they decide to get back together, they're standing back here in the movie,
wow.
and they're looking back this way. That's what they did in the movie.
I haven't seen
Oh,
it.
Bohemian Rhapsody. Sorry.
Very cool.
I thought you saw that.
Bohemian
movie.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's Queen.
Yeah.
So this one has quite a lot of industrial. So
Yeah.
we've got.
And again, there is a people variation in there. So I tried to start with a person in the frame first. If it looks weird on skin tones, which it's obviously very hard to adjust for skin tones because everybody's different. You know, I have more of a red pale skin tone. You have more of a ivory golden finish, I'd say. So it's very hard to get skin tones right, but I try and start there and then work the preset around that. Now this one, on the other hand, I went more for, again, the city, the industrial look. So I didn't really mind affecting the skin tones as much.
Manufacturing. We've got Industrial Wasteland. We could do Industrial Waste. Teenage Wasteland and Baba O'Reilly. I just love how you explain it and you get to the Baba O'Reilly, the weird stuff.
So the one thing I do want to keep in mind too is the order we name it, depending on, you know, if it starts with an A or B or whatever, it's going to be in alphabetical order in Lightroom. So they're going to start with Baba O'Reilly first, or something that starts with an A first. I want to make sure they hit some of the better presets in the pack, in my opinion, first. So
Well,
if you
better
do name
is
it,
subjective.
I made the pack, so
So it is subjective.
Yes.
Where they go, because we never did that in FroPack 1 or 2.
I didn't think about it until I used them so often. At this point, I'm like, I wish I put this at the top
Well,
of the list. and not-
AC/DC was at the top because it was
Well,
AC/DC.
AC/DC, yeah. I think that one's a great one to start with, for example.
Industrial Wasteland, Teenage Wasteland, Baba O'Reilly would be more at the top. So if you want things that are more at the top because this is one of your favorites, we'd have to think about it. We'd have to think about it. But it's pretty amazing that there's so many different options that you can get out of it.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very happy with this one specifically. And then we have, I think, what you'll be using a lot, which is simply called Contrast King, working title.
Well, so we haven't decided on this one?
Which
It
one?
seems like we're not deciding fully, but you're getting an understanding of what we're doing here.
Well, I feel like this is what we normally do. We kind of, you know, we try to come up with some working titles, and then we go from there, and over the next week or so we'll really solidify what name we like the best and
This
what
is the
makes the most
process.
sense. It's not as simple as name it this.
Sometimes it is, though.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I'm like, I got it.
Yeah.
Lester Bangs.
Yep. So this one, Contrast King, super strong on contrast. Really affected the tone curves, plural, in this one. You'll actually notice that I'm down -47 in the contrast slider because I try not to use the contrast slider because it's not selective. It's just the entire image.
You mean
is
what
affected.
I do?
Exactly. So I try and go in and really dial in the actual tone curves of each RGB channel, the whole channel, everything.
That's insane. So basically, the point with Steven showing you that is to say that it's literally not just tweaking a couple of the normal sliders. Sometimes he's going in there super deep to tweak individual colors and tones and curves. And it just, I mean, how long do you spend making one of these?
I would say at least, bare minimum, 2 days. Full days, like 2 full working days.
On one?
On one. I mean,
Wow.
you know how long it took? Probably, I would say 4 weeks total between figuring out which ones I want to use, testing them across the board. If you saw my actual initial collection of presets, I'd had like version 1, version 2, version 3.5, version 4, you know, a million versions because I kept tweaking until I really felt it was as close as we could get to that one click and done. That's the goal. Obviously, being realistic, it's not that simple every time, but...
Why don't we just name it after Zamani here?
No.
Called Zamani Feelings.
How do you even spell that?
I don't know how to spell Zamani's name, but I know his last name is spelled Feelings.
Is it easy to pronounce when you read it?
Zamani.
How do you spell it?
Z-Amani.
So this one, before we get too deep, again, simply for the most part affects the contrast. There's not much. This is probably the only preset where I didn't affect any of the colors or split toning the color grading or the calibration. And speaking of that, that is, to me, what makes the biggest difference in these presets is affecting the calibration. That's how Adobe reads the raw file. It's how it tells, you're telling the computer, this is what red is. This shade of red, this hue of red, whatever. It's not pure red. This is what green looks like. It's not pure, you know. You can adjust all of that. You can adjust all the individual hues. You can get into color grading with the split toning, highlights, midtones, shadows, tone curve, huge. I always affect and adjust them on every single one. And it's not the same for each preset, obviously.
Yeah.
It's different. So I tried to make something different for everything without going too overboard.
Well, and you also have to make sure you're not repeating stuff from 1 and 2.
And I made sure not to repeat anything.
They're all different.
And that was the hardest part about making FroPack 3. So FroPack 4 is going to be very tough to do because I'm running out of ideas, good ideas.
Yeah.
Again,
But that's why we got 44. And look, we're never going to put out a pack that's like, we've got 5,000 presets.
No.
Because all those people sometimes do is like, oh, I changed the white balance and call it a new preset. That's a pain. We like to have them be, I mean, if you have 1, 2, and 3, and you have 44 presets from us, you are going to have so many different unique looks. And like I said, Steven's worked on these to go through 2,500 images to make sure that they actually do work. Because the last thing we want to do is give you a preset that works on like one type of image.
Yep. And the hard part about making these presets is trying to also still balance out Frono's photo, YouTube videos, stuff like that with our editor Dan. And
this is with a Panasonic.
yeah, this is with the Panasonic S1. I actually crashed my car that day, if you remember.
You did? Mm-hmm. Or somebody crashed into you?
Well, it was, yeah, they hit me.
So we should call Dave Matthews. See, that's how presets get named.
Because that makes sense.
It
Dave
doesn't
Matthews.
have to make sense. I don't want to call this one Dave Matthews, but I'll call it Feelings.
This one is the one where I'm like, you can go crazy because it's all about contrast, and I know you love that contrast.
Oh, I love contrast. I mean, Contrast King I don't like, but King Contrast seems a little better.
Ah, King Contrast isn't bad.
I'm just going to make a note. King Contrast. Then we had Larry King, because he was very contrasty voice. It was booming. I'm Larry King, right?
Yep.
Well,
I'm just checking cameras. This is the first time we're recording all of this without anybody manning the camera
That's what dual
or
pixel
audio.
AF is for.
Yeah, it's all dual pixel. I just hope every 30 minutes we gotta stop, so we're getting there.
We could be Larry King.
I like King Contrast.
All right, we'll
Because
put
instead of King Kong, it's King Contrast.
we'll put a King Contrast note in there. But,
Maybe even name it with a K. King Contrast with a K.
Well, that's weird, Steven, because contrast is spelled with a C.
Every name you come up with is weird.
Well, then I got it, Steven.
What?
You just did King Contrast with a K.
Uh-oh.
What's coming up next? Give me a break, bro.
Kit Kat?
Kit Kat. It's short for King Contrast. That's really good. See, that's how this is formed. Kit Kat.
Surprised you're not highlighting that piece of paper. All right, so the next one.
But you just want to keep moving.
I do, because I don't want to make this an hour-long video. Next one is working title of Egypt. It's got earthy tones, Egyptian-style skin tones. You'll
Tiffany?
See the
No. What was it? The Bangles. Walk like an Egyptian.
The before and after of something like this. Very modern take with the colors and the tones in this one. Again, very much an earthy vibe. Will affect the greens and the yellows in an image for the most part.
Moonbeam?
But it also works really well on people too. Doesn't go too nuts, desaturates the greens.
Kate.
Same with the orange. But I think it does some really cool things. So I think besides Cityscapes, or whatever we're gonna call that, this is probably my second favorite.
You mean Baba O'Reilly?
Teenage Wasteland, whatever.
Not Lester Bangs?
So works great on people, works great on animals too, works great on landscapes.
Oh, hello, Chef.
Just about everything. Like I said, I try and focus on the skin tone first, and then I'll go from there. And it's still much different than any other preset we've put out. And the great thing is, if you do own FroPack 1 and 2 and you like a certain style of one of those presets, you can combine it with this preset and make your own. You could do whatever you want.
Just don't save over it. Save over it. Just create your own.
Correct. Save over, create a new one. And the great thing is I have it set so if you do adjust white balance or exposure, any of the basic controls, this won't override that. So I would recommend adjusting your white balance and your exposure first, then applying the preset. Because that's how I based all of these presets, on perfect exposures, perfect white balances.
Because again, we can't know your exposure or white balance. That's going to vary.
And certain people get creative and go for the high key look or more of an underexposed look. All depends. So we've got some more images. Yeah, works great on portraits, man. This photo is how old? When did you take this?
It may have been the original. It may have been like D4.
It's not over the top, you know. It's just enough. Here's our.
Oh, that dude, the Z7 crushed that photo.
Yeah, this photo's great.
That Z7, man.
The Z7 is probably my favorite one to
do presets on.
Because it just looks great. The colors are easy to manipulate. They're always pretty accurate. Oh, and so then if you have an image that's filled with greens too, like something like this, it's going to completely change it. Because again, this manipulates more the yellows and greens of an image. So a lot of different options you can get out of this one.
I don't have a. We're gonna have to put a fork in that one.
Yeah, earthy, Egyptian, whatever. You know, it's working title for now.
Moonbeam. Well, okay. Fifth Element. Fifth Element. He likes it.
I don't like it.
But you said earthy. You know, the characters walking.
How does that have to do with?
Because you said Egyptian. That takes place in pyramids and stuff in the Fifth Element. You know when they's walking through and he puts the key through the thing.
I remember.
Spoilers.
Yeah. And then the one guy gets stuck.
Right. Yeah. Fifth Element.
Maybe.
Because it complete. That's a note. I'm making a note. Fifth Element.
See, the question is it number 5?
Well, it actually is number 5.
Or is it FIFTH?
Probably the number. Or the other.
Because again, that will affect the order that you get the preset in. If we start with the number,
order doesn't matter.
That should start at the top.
Life is all that matters. That's.
Hey. So the next one, working title of Ice. It's
ding da da ding da da ding ding.
Really. There you go.
Ding da 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 ding.
Really affects blues.
Blues Clues.
Not terrible. So you'll notice in this image, if I go before and after, look at the color of the water, how it really gives that icy blue look versus that teal that it initially started with. Same with our friends here. I think this image looks really good with denim.
Ooh, yeah, look at that.
So it really affects denim. Like for example, our buddy Jeremy, his jacket just pops when you throw this on there.
Canadian tuxedo.
Not terrible, not terrible. But it's also great for landscapes, for something like this.
Canadian tuxedo. We've got Ice Ice Baby, Blues Clues, Canadian tuxedo.
While you're making your mind up, this does really well with wood as well.
Show me that one. The other one
so
again.
It kind of gives that reddish look.
Like mahogany.
The mahogany, yep. Rich mahogany. You can call it eckert. Now see the difference between this one and the one we showed earlier, I think it was the same photo, right?
No, it's a different photo. There's people in the chair this time.
But you'll see how it affects the wood differently than the other preset. So it all depends what you like, what your style is.
Can you run through like...
So this one, notice the tile, the blue tile, how it affects that the most.
Yeah. I got Ice Ice Baby. I've got Blues Clues, too normal. And I've got Canadian Tuxedo. I don't know how you don't think that
I like Canadian Tuxedo the best.
All right, we'll put a line under it and we'll figure that one out later.
That one's funny.
Canadian Tuxedo.
Because again, it really does work well in denim.
It brings out the denim.
This is another one of my favorites. Next up, we have Light and Airy. This is more of your, I would say, modern wedding photo edit. Very modern, like I said. It really affects the greens in the photo, along with the skin tones. Like I said, it's a very light and airy feel. And this is another one that works on almost any photo you throw at it. Here's a beach vibe with our buddy Brandon from Alan's Camera and his daughter.
Nice.
But I really love the way this affects the skin tones along with the grass.
Dude, I would be very curious to see how this image works with all of the presets. So what do we got? You said Light and Airy?
Light and Airy.
Well, I got one. Mount Airy. We did that with Kensington. You know, we got Mount Airy. It's a part of Philadelphia.
I guess.
Because it has the light and airy. See? It doesn't have anything to do with anything, but that, like, Mount Airy. I like it.
But again, to your wedding photos, like something like this, you know, it really affects everything in the image.
Yeah, I don't remember taking that one.
This is how old.
I don't remember taking it.
Can we even like zoom in a lot on this one? Yeah, I guess you can. This is probably over 10 years old. A lot of the images.
Do you have the info?
I don't have it enabled right now.
If you hit I?
Is that in develop module or library? 2011.
2011 is when I took it. I don't even remember taking this.
I didn't take it. This is one you supplied me.
Does it hit info again? Does it have the camera in there?
No, doesn't have a camera model.
Well, we'd have
that
to.
enabled.
I mean, it's not enabled, but
yeah.
That would have been a D3S at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really does a great job.
All right, so right now I got Mount Airy. You mean you could do MJ?
MJ? What's MJ?
Air Jordans, bro. You and your Air Jordans.
Nike Air?
No,
Nike?
you can't call it Nike Air.
Just do it.
I'll draw the line at Nike Air. We'll call everything Skittles, but I'll draw the line at Nike Air.
Because they'll actually come after us.
I mean, Mount Airy works because I like when we do the Philadelphia stuff. And like I said, I'm all about branding, and everything you brand, it's a matter of, like, we could call it toenail.
Sure.
And it could have nothing to do with
But it's going to take the user a few weeks to realize toenail is the
That's
preset
great. They just
like.
love going to toenail. All
When
right.
they first open up, they're going to be like, what the hell's toenail?
We got Mount Airy. What about Air Horn?
Air horn.
Air Horn.
Air Jordans.
I don't want to say that. Air J. Alt J.
You'll say Alt J, but you won't say Air
Yeah,
Jordans.
because who knows even who Alt J is.
I think they're pretty big.
All right, what do we got next?
So this kind of plays off Light and Airy a little bit. It's more of a subdued, subtle version of Light and Airy. Let's just say that. I have a working title of Mentos. It's fresh, like the Fresh Maker. That's why I threw Mentos. I personally like that. And this one is very low contrast, very muted, very soft. I would say if we didn't name Charmin in FroPack 1 or 2, whatever that was.
I don't remember which one.
I would probably call this Charmin because of how soft it is. So going through some of these, you'll notice just a very soft look. If you want just something, just to tweak it a little bit.
Look what it does to Bedia here.
So
Again, Z7, not gonna lie. Portraits on the Z7, oh.
Now you'll notice
Contrast.
too, this does also warm up the image just a little bit. I did affect the color grading in this, which used to be called split toning. I did adjust the mids, the highlights, and the shadows to kind of warm it up a little bit, no matter what image you're dealing with, just to add to that softness. Because who likes a cold, dark photo?
So
When
you
want
like
to be soft.
Mentos because it's the Fresh Maker? What about
Softens the contrast, smooths it out.
Irish Spring?
Spring.
Because I went off of Fresh, and the Irish Spring.
Why don't you keep it Mentos?
I don't have a problem with Mentos.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a problem with Mentos.
You gonna let me win one?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Mentos.
All right, let's do Mentos for now.
All right.
And then we've got the next one, more of a modern take on today's images. What you'll find in a lot of Instagram grids, a muted matte black shadowed finish but it's still very textured. All the hipsters are loving it, this kind of look, so I kind of made my own take on it. And I think it came out really well. So you'll see before and after.
Whoa.
It crushes the highlights, also lifts those shadows.
Yeah, it brings the highlights back.
Correct. So, but it still gives you a very textured finish, which is really nice. So this is another one of my favorites.
It's insane how different it is from just flat.
Yeah, what I love about it is with these presets is you can get so many different looks based on one photograph.
Let's just call it Gen Z.
Gen Z. But look at the difference in colors.
Damn, girl.
So again, a very, very matte finish. And I'm very happy with this preset. All depends what you're going for. This is Nina. She's featured in a lot of our reviews.
Do you want to call it Nina?
No.
Nina. I mean, that's not terrible. But it's just people, they'll know what it is once they use it. They'll be like, oh, I love Nina. What was your tentative name for this one?
Just modern.
Hipster chic?
I did. I might have had I had hipster in there in the beginning.
I mean, imagine calling it hipster glasses.
But to be honest, this is kind of my current editing style.
So you want to call it Eckert?
No.
E-C-K-E-R-T.
Eck money?
Why don't we call it Eckert?
That's what the kids in the high school used to call me.
That's great. Eck money.
Eck money.
We could call it Eckert.
No. Rite Aid.
I mean, we can call it Rite Aid if you want. They bought Eckert.
Did they?
Somebody bought Eckert. It was either CVS or them.
So, again, one of my favorites out of the pack. I would say between this, Light and Airy, Cityscapes, and the blown out film,
but
they're
again,
probably my favorites.
It's subjective.
It's all
because
subjective.
You may like something else.
Well, exactly. Like you love high contrast. I'm more of, I'd rather pull back on contrast a little bit.
I still do go into some of the presets like Skittles or Universal Soldier as starting points. If I have trouble with something, I personally don't go to the extremes for my stuff.
You like keeping your colors accurate.
I've got my style that I've formed over years, so I'm not gonna.
But that's what I mean. You don't really
venture out.
Yeah, venturing out to different colors, and you prefer more straight out of the camera look. I feel with contrast.
With contrast for me, but I can say I go through some of these presets and I'm like, I like that. And that's the whole thing.
And these are all your photos for the most part.
It's true. It's true, and that's. But another reason I stay away sometimes is I don't want to second guess mine. But I do go into some of them, like Skittles. I'll go into start, and like Skittles gives you this massive color wash, and what I then do.
Super vibrant.
Yeah, but I pull back. Like you do this, but I'll just pull back on certain things. But it's a starting point for me.
And to add to talking about FroPack 1 and how it relates to FroPack 3, it's so much different now how much more you can change versus what we did in FroPack 1, because now you have the texture slider, you have dehaze, you have the color grading tool opposed to split toning, where split toning let you only affect the colors in the shadows and the highlights, not the midtones. So there's so much more I could do with FroPack 3 than I could ever do before.
And guess what they didn't allow us to do with FroPack 1 at the time? JPEGs.
Yep.
They couldn't work on JPEGs, but now you can use FroPack 1, FroPack 2, FroPack 3, all on JPEGs. And if you have a Lightroom, a Lightroom account and you sign into just regular Lightroom, and you can sync that with your phone, that's the only way you can get our presets to sync. That's just how Adobe did it. But yeah, you can. They do work on JPEGs. They're not going to be as perfect as when you do them on RAW files, but for the editing on the go, it's going to be pretty darn good.
And just know, anytime you come up here with a JPEG to your presets, if they're italicized, that means you're on a JPEG. That means they're not meant to be working on this photo. They will, but what it does is it basically strips the color profile up here. Instead of being Adobe Color, it's whatever your burned in JPEG color profile is. So that's how you can kind of tell if, I'm editing a JPEG right now versus a RAW file. But yes, these are meant for RAW files. They're going to overcook your JPEG files, but they will work. Just got to take them down a little bit.
I'm leaning towards Eckert.
Really?
Yeah, man. You wanted it's your favorite one, and plus E is near the top.
True.
More than Nina and more than hipster chic. You could call it Steven or Eckert.
Yeah. I'll think
Nobody's
about
liking it. Eckert. We'll
maybe
put a line under Eckert.
It's got a little ring to it.
See? What's that have to do with my preset?
Hey, that's because they're the only options you're giving me.
What does that have to do?
I would not call it any of them if I had the option.
Well, we'll keep thinking.
Yeah.
I thought we would be able to come up with it live.
It's not easy.
It's going to take us a minute to just bounce them back and forth, because I really do like Lester Bangs.
So the next one is Morning Coffee. This one affects more the browns and blues. It introduces browns and blues into the image. Almost gives it a retro feel. So you'll see this photo of Modest that you took. I really like the retro vibe it gives off. It also does great in industrial environments as well.
Volkswagen?
But you'll see, again, the blues and the browns of the image.
What about Winnebago?
Not terrible.
Because he's like right there. Winnebago? I don't know how to spell it, but Winnebago.
So here's like your photo of Paris out the window, which, I don't know, I always love this framing for some reason. It just
You know
gravitates towards me. Because you took it.
Because I took it.
Well, look at how it affects your floors in your old loft.
I don't really think a 57 Chevy.
And then you have stuff like this where it's like, Modest's skin tone is severely affected, but I kind of dig it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Then we have working title of Mute Math.
I actually like this one a lot.
Which could actually be the title.
Yeah, it could be.
This one is another one of my favorites. I know I keep saying that, but that's why I take so long to make these presets, because I try to make them my favorite. I try to make all of them great, and it's not easy. But this one is more everything muted in the image color-wise, except your oranges, reds, yellows, because I tried not to affect skin tone.
You know, I said we could call it Hudson.
You did say Hudson.
His name's Hudson.
So this is Hudson Thames, and you'll see the before and after. No preset, applied preset. Basically everything's muted, but the reds in the image.
It gives it this vintage, like 30s,
well,
40s look.
This is really cool. I love what it does to this image. It just looks like a plain photo of a dress, and then you get into like an elegant dress.
I took some bad wedding photos, dude.
Well,
That's
this
with
again.
14 to 24.
What was the button to hit? I?
Yeah.
2011 again.
Yeah.
Might have been the same wedding.
D3S.
14 millimeters.
Had to be
2500.
D3S.
And that's another thing. This is 2500 ISO. We tested these out on 2500 ISO.
Base ISO.
On base ISO, on 10,000 ISO. Obviously, when you get higher and higher, your color is going to degrade a lot, so the presets aren't really meant to be pushed past, I'd say, 64, but you can still do it. Just need to adjust it a little
I like
more.
the feel of this preset. I love this one right here.
Yep.
I mean,
Just kind of makes the dog pop, you know?
That's Paris street scenes.
This was from our Z6 review.
Billy Joel. Scenes from an Italian restaurant.
So it also does really great things to industrial stuff. A lot of the presets do. Look at how much it changes this one, for example. Just gives that vintage vibe off.
Very similar to the edit I ended up doing for those back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, that was Victor Bellata again.
So this one, obviously I took a lot of the colors down. I also adjusted the calibration to read colors a certain way, but I tried to make the skin tone still true to life for the most part. Obviously still muted a little bit, that's the purpose of it. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can do to your images. And the goal with presets too is you don't really just put one into a whole collection of photos. You usually apply the same preset to that entire collection. So you're not looking at random presets on your Instagram grid. They're all, you know.
Mute Math and Hudson.
Yep.
Mute Math and Hudson. That's in Dumbo or Hell's Kitchen, I think.
Yeah, look at this one. The color and lighting.
Is this Hudson again?
This is the same, yeah.
So Hudson, yeah, Hudson.
Mute Math, yeah. But the way the sun was hitting his skin, man.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Just looks great.
The sun was going down.
I love the color, everything about this photo. Is this base ISO?
That was ISO. Well, that was the A9. I remember taking that. So I probably had a faster shutter speed. And look at the dog. You look at the contrast.
This dog looks great on the photo.
Can we call it like? So let's think of. So I'm getting a very Untouchables feel to it. You know, the movie.
Yeah.
Untouchables, like Al Capone. Al Capone. You could call it Capone.
Not opposed to Capone.
Because it has a very
20s, 30s.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The
I
2030s gangster feel.
Okay.
I mean, you could call it gangster.
I like Capone. Capone's cool.
No Al, just Capone.
Like just Capone, yeah.
Because it has that old school feel. It's so like Hudson could have that old sounding too, like Hudson.
I think of Hudson River when I think of Hudson.
Well, I think of Hudson Yards now. Hudson's New York.
Yeah.
But Capone is old, you know.
I think Capone works. Very industrial, you know. It's muted. It's old school. It's
It's an idea.
Next one, Neon. This one is a happy accident.
We'll call that one John Mayer.
John Mayer. Oh, because he has a song named
Neon, Neon. That's how I come up with names.
But this is crazy colors that just happen to work. I don't know why, but they just do. It's a lot of teals and oranges. I know that's all the rage in the these days, but it's not just your standard teal and orange LUT or color grade or whatever. So before and after of this one, you'll see it really punches up the vibrancy. This is one of the only ones that I would say is I would watch using it on people. Not that you can't do it, but it will definitely affect the skin tone.
It's definitely going to change the skin tone. Because what color is that hat? Purple?
That hat is purple. Notice it turns it more of a teal. So the purples it affects, the reds, the oranges, and then you have stuff like this where it just looks awesome.
I still love the kitchen stuff.
Yeah, the kitchen stuff looks great.
I mean,
and then you have Picture Todd where, you could make it work. I would probably still adjust his skin tone a little bit, but it does work.
I'm trying to think of that Nolan Bushnell, not Atari, but...
Notice the purples in the kitty too that it's affecting. Again, making it more of a blue.
Where is it? Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese.
I was gonna say like rave or something, like a neon rave.
Oh, rave. Well, then you would just call it Molly.
I was just gonna say it.
Let's just write that down. Or MDMA. MDMA. Could be one of those, Steven.
Could be.
Molly or MDMA or John Mayer.
John Mayer.
Well, I mean, you could call it rave or rage. Well, not rage. Rage is more red.
I could see rave.
MDMA, Molly, John Mayer.
They're a little too much, I think. Molly and Molly, that's more
it's a
subtle,
name.
But yeah.
It's not drugs.
So the next one, just a simple working title called Proper.
So something I would use.
To me, this is your base edit. It's your proper standard edit where it's colorful, it's punchy, it's just enough contrast. It's what's turning a raw file into the correct proper edit that the manufacturer will want you to see, in my opinion.
So it's more of it's realistic.
It's realistic. There's no crazy colors. Now, granted, I still adjusted some things, you'll notice, but for the most part, it's a standard edit, but I really adjusted the tone curves on these photos with the RGB sliders, and that's just one of them. But
Unique Virginia.
What? But
No, it's a very good edit. I like it.
It's very vibrant, but not over the top Skittles wise.
No, so
it's proper. That's all I can say.
Oh, proper. I don't know where the hell you get proper from.
Standard, proper.
Standard tap.
Standard tap.
It's a restaurant here.
But if you have a photo with a lot of colors, this really makes it pop.
It's a very like a great starting point because it's like straight to the point. I know I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I'm just trying to get to this is how we do it. We throw stuff out there and we get to the point of what it could be. And
for example, we called in FroPack 1 Universal Soldier one of the presets because it
worked on a lot
of things where you just slap it on as a base edit for the most part.
And this is different than Universal Soldier.
No, this to me is much different. But yeah, something similar along those lines for naming.
USB.
Why USB?
Universal Serial Bus. It has the word universal in it. USB, bro.
What goes on in that brain of yours?
Exactly. That's not a bad idea. Realistic USB.
Realistic USB.
USB universal because I go to.
You're like, yeah, they go hand in hand. USB, realistic.
Yeah, because you got it. That's what's cool about our names.
Who calls USB Universal Serial Bus?
A lot of people, nerds. See, this is how it works. I'm more of the ilk of putting it together where it's just something unique sounding, and you'll associate it with what it does.
And if I wasn't sitting here explaining and kind of running the show on the laptop, I'd probably be a lot more collaborative in terms of naming it, but I'm just kind of letting you take the reins for this.
Well, I throw stuff out there and then listen to what you have to say. Like Eckert, you're like, I don't like it.
Once the cameras are stopped, we're going to change all these names to something normal.
No, not to something normal.
No, it won't be normal.
USB.
All right, so the next one, working title of Slate. It's a very cold and moody, like dark and moody photograph style.
Yeah.
So for example, before and after of this March 1989 calendar, which is awesome, by the way. I love this.
It was just hanging there.
It's so textured, like look at that. It looks so cool.
Show me the band one.
So the band one, for example, here's before, here's after. Now this is one I believe I had to come and take down the highlights and up the shadows a little bit just because of how the original was taken.
Yeah. So it has more of a cold feel for these?
Definitely more of a cold, slated feel, yeah, in terms of the color.
We should call something Mambo number 5.
But it works great on Cityscapes too, just like Cityscapes.
So would you say...
But it's more of a colder
I think I have the name of this one.
What?
November. No, really, November. It has that colder feel with but nice crisp feel.
I mean, the dog does kind of look like he's in a cold November at this point.
Well, that's what I was saying. I mean, it could be November rain.
I don't mind November rain because rain's always kind of gloomy and dark and, you know, but it does a great job with taking a standard sunny day, you know, and making it into something more. I kind of wanted to call it Robert Smith. Or like The Cure, or something.
Robert Smith.
The singer The Cure, like
super, like Robert Pattinson.
Super emo.
Thought you were gonna say. Well, then why don't you call it Chris Carrabba?
Chris Carrabba. Dashboard.
Dashboard.
But even, you know, if you have detail shots, it works on all kinds of stuff.
I call that one Queen Mary.
Doesn't have to be just people or landscapes or any of that. It could be a ton of stuff.
November or November rain.
Oh, like look at this one. This one's really cool.
This is
RX
100 also.
Yeah. Slow shutter. Works really well on industrial stuff again. I mean, it just gives such a cool look. Yeah, and as long as, again, you have your exposure down and your white balance dialed in, you should achieve the same effect, depending on ISO.
Well, we'll keep chewing on these, but I think November rain's pretty good. Or November.
And then we have the last one. Working title of Washed Out. This is an overexposed, high-key, black and white type image, but more muted highlights. Very contrasty, but not contrasty. So
like high key, like high key.
High key. Yep, you'll see the before and after.
But this is the one that I wrote down
It pretty much
earlier.
will blow out any details in the face if you have details in the face.
The one I showed Steven earlier. This is where the name would be.
It gives it such a unique, creative, artistic look to the image.
Walter White.
I think like your modest one here. It's just very interesting.
I am the one who knocks.
Ooh, Walter White.
Walter White.
I like that one. This is Little Dan.
Oh, Little Dan. Looks like he's in jail. I mean, it could be Biff Tannen.
Oh, I like Walter White. I mean,
I love Biffco. No, I like Walter White too, but this is where I come up with these ideas.
So I wanted to supply another black and white preset, but I didn't want to do the same as Double Stuffed Oreos or Kensington or your black and white Boomify. And I think this is different than all of those, but still serves a purpose with your collection of presets. So I think it works on a lot of photos, gives it a unique look. I like it a lot.
So for this one, I've got Walter White so far, but that's 15. Can you run through some of the images that work on all of them? Give me this guy.
Oh, this one?
Or give me Sarah and Mike.
Sure.
Mike and Sarah.
Reset it. Go back to the presets.
So we're gonna hover. He's gonna hover over them to show you.
Now remember, some of these are variations, so you'll see like the same preset. Cityscapes is the normal one, but again, I would go on the people version. You can still adjust it if needed. And this is Contrast King with green and no green, Egypt, Ice, Light and Airy.
The original names.
Mentos.
The tentative ones that you
Modern. Morning Coffee, Mute Math, Neon. Like again, Neon, I did not expect to work on people, and it's like, well, actually, it works.
Molly. MDMA.
Molly.
USB.
Washed Out.
Washed Out even works.
I think on Nina, a lot of these look really great too. And again, I try to cater towards skin tone first and foremost, give it a unique skin tone without going over the top. Now, Cityscapes again will be one that won't look the best on people, but like
it's still crazy that 2 packs in, or 3 packs in, everything can still be unique and different.
Yeah, again, Neon. Did not think it would work, but it does.
Again, presets, subjective. They're still subjective. Like, if you like the feel of it, go with it. If you want to tweak something, tweak something. The whole point is to give yourself a great starting point and to speed up your raw workflow. If you're stuck, sometimes when I'm stuck on one of my images, I'll go through the presets just to get an idea of what is possible, and then I can tweak it from there. I mean, that's one of the things that I do with my raw files from time to time.
Every time I open up a raw file in Lightroom, the first thing I do is check out the presets and see what works, what doesn't work, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, there's nothing that'll work on this, and I'll browse through the presets, and I'm like, wow, it looks great.
Click on, give me Walter White on this. Then go into the develop module and just like bring it down, bring the exposure down, or bring the highlights back. Like, it's just tweaks. You never know what you're gonna end up with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a starting point, but then within a click, like, many of these will work in one click. We don't generally sell it as one click. Some people do, and they really don't. The point is that a lot of these you can, with one click, actually have it pretty darn close to finished, as long as your exposures are where they need to be. But even if they're not, you just tweak your exposure and you tweak your white balance, and then you're good to go.
Well, like for example, Cityscapes, people on Todd right here, obviously that's a little crushing on his skin. You know, you'll want to soften up
Is
it
this
a little
Kit
bit.
Kat?
Could be.
I don't know, which one was this?
I forget at this point.
What number is it on the preset list?
3.
Oh, 3? That's Baba Booey, or Baba O'Reilly.
Baba Booey.
Baba Booey, I could do that. All right, we're gonna basically wrap it there. I hope you enjoyed a behind the scenes look. Like I said, we made tweaks, well, we're probably tweaking some of these names now that we've gone through it. We're gonna sit here, throw a bunch of darts against the wall to see what we end up wanting to use. But this was a look in at our process, and also seeing all the hard work that Steven put in to build FroPack 3. It's not just going in and making a couple of tweaks. These things take hours, 10, 12 hours or more to perfect one preset. And I'm sure there were times where he started editing something and then realized that it may have been too similar to something that we've already done and had to scrap it.
Yep.
Because the point here is
there's only so many colors you can change until it looks ridiculous. So
right, and so at this point, with 3 FroPacks, that's 44 different presets. I believe that the combined FroPack 1, 2, and 3, the bundle, will be $90, because normal price is $50, $50, and $50. So that's $150, but it's $90 if you get them all together. That's literally $2 a preset. That's it. That's what I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
They look good.
I hope people like them. Not just trying to sell something to sell something. We're selling something that they can actually use. They can make a profit off.
Save you a lot of time on a wedding shoot.
And I know you're a big fan of the saving time part, but personally I think it's just realizing how much potential you have in a single photograph and how many different unique looks you can get out of a single image.
Yeah. If you want to check out FroPack 3, it's froknowsphoto.com/FroPack3. That's where we're going to leave it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you, Steven.
You're welcome.
Jared, Polin, froknowsphoto.com. See ya. Baba O'Reilly. Jared Polin, froknowsphoto.com, and I'm proud to announce FroPack 3. This pack includes 15 all-new custom Lightroom presets that are designed to help you edit your images quickly with unique looks. Now, let's see them in action. Introducing Gotham, Capone, Fifth Element, Mount Airy, November Rain, Almost Famous, Prestige Worldwide, Eckert, Winnebago, MDMA, Mentos, Zoolander, Canadian Tuxedo, Walter White, and King Contrast. Head on over to froknowsphoto.com/FroPack3 to check out the before and after images, and if you like them, you can pick up FroPack 3 on sale for a limited amount of time right now, or you can save $60 instantly off the full retail price when you bundle FroPack 1, 2, and 3 together. Thank you very much for your continued support. Jared Polin, froknowsphoto.com. See ya.